At the beginning of the 20th century, European Jews, maybe even your great-great-grandparents, had to make a choice. Anti-Semitism was bringing bad news for the Jews. All over Europe, Jews began to recognize they weren't going to be accepted, especially in Eastern Europe, with all the government persecution and violent pogroms. Looking for a solution, Jews turned to new opportunities, finding freedom in America, and championing new world social movements like socialism and Zionism. These new causes and new countries gave Jews hope for a better life, free from the discrimination, violence, and hardships they had experienced for centuries. The majority chose these 5 options: freedom, religion, assimilation, socialism, Zionism. Why? How?
What?
Glad you asked. Many Jews escaped across the ocean to America, the land of the free, a symbol of liberty and justice, where Jews hoped to find a better life. They called it the Goldene Medina. The streets might not have been paved with gold, but America was a kind of equal opportunity employer. If you could work hard, you could make it, maybe even get rich. Unfortunately, often working hard meant giving up some of their religion or values, like working on Saturday. And many Jews lost their Jewish identity in the American melting pot. But at the time, the idea of going someplace where a Jew didn't have to worry too much about being attacked and where one could make a good living and live a free life was very attractive. A lot of Jews may have left, but a lot stayed. For them, leaving their religious community and families wasn't an option. Back then, Europe was the religious and cultural Jewish center of the world. Going to America would have been like moving to Mars. America had few schools or cultural supports for religious Jews. They didn't see how they could live a Jewish life or follow their traditions. And they didn't want to risk losing their Jewish identity, which, to be fair, was a real risk. And they figured if their families had survived in Europe for generations, they could too. At the time, it seemed the increasing and violent anti-Semitism would blow over, and things would be okay. Of course, we now know that the Holocaust was coming. Other Jews assimilated. With the world shifting towards modern secularism, these Jews chose to move away from religion and whatever else made them different. They saw this as the solution to anti-Semitism. These Jews belonged to the Haskalah, the Jewish Enlightenment movement of the mid to late 1800s, which claimed that if Jews integrated into secular society and became more like their neighbors, they would be respected and accepted. Haskalah intellectuals wanted to keep Jewish cultural values, but leave behind Jewish national identity and antiquated Old World Judaism. Over the years, some of their kids stopped identifying as Jewish, or even converted to Christianity, while some became an early version of Reform Jews today. They gave up the parts of religion that seemed to set them apart, but anti-Semitism morphed right along with them. Instead of hating Jews for their different religious beliefs, anti-Semites focused on Jews' inferior race that tried to be like normal people. But at the time, the hope was that society would progress and improve and would welcome diversity, including Jews. Some Jews, inspired by the ideals of socialism, joined a revolution to transform Russia, and ultimately the world, into a utopia of equality, justice, and brotherhood. They were filled with passion and aspired to build a new and better world where their Jewish background was irrelevant and where all people were equal.
Socialism, a social system where the community owns everything, giving everyone what he or she needs. From each according to his ability. To each according to his needs.
Eventually, the Russian monarchy was overthrown, and the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was founded. But the reality was not the utopia they imagined. The ideal of communism, a workers' paradise, became a reality of mass famine, poverty, and the deaths of millions of Russians. To make matters worse, anti-Semitism survived the revolution, and the government continued to discriminate against Jews. This was not the dream they had fought for. But at the time, socialism seemed to offer an exciting new path of equality. There was another dream, though, one that inspired many Jews, the dream of rebuilding a new Jewish life in the ancient Jewish homeland. Through Zionism, Jews hoped to once again, after almost 2,000 years, have their own country, where they would finally control their destiny. And by becoming a country, just like other countries, Zionists hoped the world would finally accept the Jewish people and anti-Semitism would end. Some Zionists were inspired by the values of socialism, building a system of kibbutz communal farms, in addition to modern cities and towns. With hard work and cooperation, they dreamed of building a progressive society, one that would also make the world a better place. It turned out that wasn't easy. Although most Zionist Jews wanted to live in peace with the Arab communities who were living there, many Arabs didn't like that Jewish immigrants were buying land and building communities, and sometimes they attacked violently in a conflict that continues to this day. It took years of hard work in agriculture, engineering, and international relations to turn the land of Israel into today's flourishing State of Israel. But at the time, the idea of building a new Jewish homeland where Jews could live up to their full potential in the ancient Jewish homeland in a desert in the Middle East was an exciting, crazy dream. The hardships and challenges were daunting, but the possibilities were amazing. None of these choices were easy. They required sacrifice, giving up the life they knew or the things they wanted, even the people they loved. It was really hard, which is why many Jews in Europe chose another option altogether. They continued living the life they knew because it was familiar, and the alternatives were filled with unknowns and even danger. In the end, every family and individual made a choice. This isn't the story of every Jew. After all, the Jews are a diverse people. This is the story of many Ashkenazi Jews, while other Jews like Sephardim, Ethiopians, or Jews by choice have a very different story. But our lives are shaped by the choices of previous generations, whether we're closely related to them or not. And if this is your story, the decision your great-grandparents made way before you were born determined to a large degree who you are, what your life is like, and what kind of Jewish identity you have. And that is how Jews from there got to here and to you.